So I don't remember when exactly it was, but at one point I decided that um, if I'm ever going to do like a reaction video on this channel, it's going to be reacting to my own content. However, I've also never really been a fan of just the idea of doing a reaction content. Doesn't matter even if it is my content or not. So I'm more inspired by like the commentaries of providing a little bit of what you need to hear in the video and then responding to it afterwards. And that is not necessarily a reaction video, it's more or less just commentary. So, this is going to be my first real commentary video based on my own content as a response video to something I made back in 2023. I would say it's probably one of the only videos that would be considered a grifting video. Stolen points from other grifters, and however, what I found interesting about it is that there are specific moments that will be provided in this video that still have merit and still are true to this day that I wanted to talk about. And I don't know if that's going to necessarily inspire a whole other video that's basically talking about where we at now with the gaming industry as a whole, or if it's going to be all cleared up in this video. I doubt it, but yeah. So that's the video.
Yeah, but in terms of brand recognition, as a lot of people see these IPs and they flock to it because, they're well-known IPs. They made a lot of money, and if they played the older games, or watched the older movies, it's basically, it's milking the nostalgia and it's getting the people in to play a game that they think that they're going to enjoy. When it comes to everything can be said. Saints Row, everybody thought they were getting a gangster game, and instead it was made by people that didn't even know how to make video games.
In this point, I was talking about remakes and remasters, and where we are in media nowadays is pretty much, this conversation is going to probably be relevant for a while. Um, what really inspired this section was definitely the Saints Row remake, but there is a lot of examples that we can use for this specifically. We have the 13 remake. We have the Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 remaster that did poorly. We have the GTA Trilogy remaster that did poorly. I don't think that was more of a remaster, more than a remake. But all of those, yeah, they did poorly. And where we are now, I don't think we're going to have as much of a problem with these remakes and remasters, because there is a side that does complain about the bare minimum representation of any kind. And I don't, those are separate arguments from just having a game that works, having a game that has some sort of innovation, or stays true to the identity in some way, not necessarily just ruining the character's main look or fixing gameplay that doesn't need to be fixed. We can go into the different cases of like Saints Row remake was not a gangster game. The the Battlefront 1 and 2 remaster ran like dog water. GTA Trilogy remake looked bad. The rain effects were terrible. And when it comes to remakes and remasters, we also have to consider like what if it involves license of any kind, licensed music, licensed vehicles. You can also pretty much guarantee that that's going to be scrapped. At another point another video that I made, I'm pretty certain it was the video that was centered around the death of choice-based single-player narrative experience games, that I brought up, like the Tony Hawk one, for example. that's another good one because they replaced the soundtrack. They added new music that wasn't in the original game, and my question is, do we really need that, or should we just stay true to it? There's a couple of different arguments in that specific situation, and I feel like we're going to be having those conversations for a while because this is going to be a trend that hopefully does die out. You know, like a lot of people have their list of remakes and remasters, but when we see how poorly it can be done, we don't really want that anymore. We would rather just emulate it or, mod or PC versions. And yeah, I still think that that's a relevant discussion to this day. When it comes to getting newer audiences involved, specifically with like the Tony Hawk one, for example, there is also the argument whether or not, like, who's buying these games, or is it going to be the new generation, or is it just going to be the generation that grew up with the game and wants to relive it? When it comes to the Tony Hawk one, I would say that most people that bought into that it was all because of nostalgia. I don't think there was a lot of new gamers that wanted to play it because, most gamers pretty much just have like their specific genres that they stick to, and that's probably not one of them. But I think that's it for that section.
Maybe they are actually marketing mature games towards kids. I find that side of things to be honest, probably the truth. And it's the same way like how GTA Online marketed themselves. One of the updates, like the cutting stunts DLC. When I saw that as a younger individual, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is cool. GTA, this is GTA Online. This looks like Trackmania, and rocket bikes, colorful things. Everybody, and every company knows that they are doing that because they want younger audiences to play their mature games. And I think that's a psychological aspect of marketing that I honestly don't agree with.
All right, this next section, it will probably also still be relevant for a while. And some people call it the Fortnite-ification of video games, but I don't think that's fair because there were games prior to Fortnite that still had these essentially, I'm going to call it kid appealing customization items in mature games. I'm going to say that. Now, I do have some interesting examples, like, for example, and they also come from, like, me growing up. For an example, whenever I was, I don't remember how old I was. It's probably like 2014, I was definitely maybe like 10 or a little bit older. Yeah, when I was 10 or a little bit older, a game that always looked interesting to me was Saints Row 4 because it was a mature game with superpowers. And I did play games like Infamous, and I was also interested in games like Prototype, but what was appealing to me was that it was wacky. It was essentially like GTA, but you had superpowers. And that's something that, if you say that to a kid, like, whoa, a game where I can have guns and also superpowers, and, it's basically Grand Theft Auto where I can hijack cars and rob stores and whatever. That is an interesting idea. When I was also into Call of Duty at that time, and I also got into Black Ops 3 was, some people might say Advanced Warfare was the first introduction of the wacky elements, and it kind of was, but Black Ops 3 definitely took it to a whole new level with their supply drop system, because that game was just straight up, like, that game was easily designed to milk your wallet. And I remember with the popularity of that game, and even just like the kids at school like doing the emotes and stuff like that, there was more color. A lot of the skins were like way more colorful and saturated that you wouldn't have seen in the other Call of Duty games. Yeah, there was Ghost, but who remembers Ghost? It was more Black Ops 3. And it's even like when it came to the maps, like even like a map like Micro, for example, it was very bright and saturated. And Black Ops 4 took that even further, because at that point it was like, this is like not Call of Duty anymore. This looks like an entirely different game. And I believe at that time when Black Ops 4 came out, Fortnite was also starting to get popular. So then they just continued to add more microtransactions that appealed more towards the Fortnite crowd. They saw how well Fortnite was doing with their skins, and they just went all out. But with Black Ops 4, it was more for weapon skins, and more the skins that came out, or weapon kits, or whatever you want to call them, it just started getting way more unrealistic, and it was more appealing towards people that were willing to spend money to get something cool. And I do think, I did think at the time, I still think that, yeah, for Black Ops 4, it still could be like more appealing towards like the gamers that just want cool items. But then after that, that's when the Fortniteification started becoming more and more prevalent in games. You can look at stuff like Overwatch, but Overwatch is more towards teens. But basically, when games started adding more microtransactions and more skins that looked really cool, started getting further and further away from the real identity of the franchise that they're a part of. Call of Duty is definitely the best example of this, as there are plenty of TikToks showcasing whatever skins and stuff that come out in Call of Duty nowadays, and people just want the original, authentic version of Call of Duty. And they're not getting that anymore. There's a reason why Battlefield is getting more attraction, because people are just done with the stupid collaborations. And that's where the Fortniteification comes in. Collaborations. As a kid, I think they were cool. I used to have my own ideas of coming up with games and having different elements from different games within the same game. You could be fighting like Bane with like a chainsaw or something like that. Just wild ideas that kids would, when you're a kid, you would come up with. And they're cool ideas, but whenever they're actually put in to play in with video games, you realize that the main reason why you enjoyed something in the first place, it's now just gone. It's all about just paying money to get something cool. And I like some of the ideas with Fortnite, but I don't like the monetization practices with Fortnite, because at the end of the day, you can add whatever the hell you want and you can make so much money, and that's basically Fortnite's way of thinking. And Call of Duty's trying to do the same thing, but with like having Beavis and Butthead, Attack on Titan, like it's just like, what are we doing at this point? We should just stick with the military stuff, because that's what Call of Duty is. Fortnite is wacky. So I feel like Fortnite should be excused from that stuff. Even Overwatch to a point is also wacky. And yeah, that's where I stand on that. It will, I think it nowadays, it's honestly wild. Also working with kids and just hearing them that like, oh yeah, I play Call of Duty Warzone, and I'm like, Call of Duty's trash, and they're like, well, it's better than Fortnite. And I'm like, it's wild to hear kids say something like that. But yeah, I think we're gonna still be dealing with that until Call of Duty's potentially ran into the ground, or maybe they might wake up and try to do what Battlefield's doing, but I'm not holding my breath.
A lot of games aren't going the full 100% now. They're doing 50-50, so or 50 and then the 50 in the next year. They release half a game or mostly a broken game. They fix it over time, over months, over a year, or they have like less content and then they add the content in throughout the year. Like I am against the idea of paying for half a game or less than half a game and then getting my content for the rest of the year. If that's the case now, I might as well just go out and buy an old console so I can get a full game experience. It's so stupid. DLC is the biggest outlying or I guess maybe the underdog in this video, because as much as I didn't talk about it, it is the only thing that developers or companies will put in their games and will focus more on than the actual game itself, because that's how they get more money. Rockstar Games is a great example. They don't fix anything, but they just keep adding more cars, more sameness, more missions that you've already played before. The more fans, or I guess gamers, support these companies in doing this stuff, they basically want a gaming year or the gaming to be 2014 quality, which is, if it at this point we're almost getting into that territory. The best example I would use is Battlefield 2140 or whatever the hell it was called. But the Battlefield game, when that came out, I immediately thought, oh shit, are we actually gonna, like, EA mess this up so badly? Like, are we going to go into 2014 quality of gaming? And then we had Saints Row, we had Forspoken. All this stuff is like, it's starting to hit towards 2014 gaming. 2014 gaming is, in my opinion, still probably one of the worst years for gaming ever. A lot of the games sucked that year, and the quote-unquote maybe good ones were either indie games or games that were almost on the decent factor, or most likely on the decent factor. And I do laugh at like how speedrunners speedrun these new games and then developers react to them. IGN, shout out to you. I want to know what's going through their minds. What would make you want to replay a bare bones generic game of this century? I mean, if it appeals to you, it appeals to you, but like, come on. Like, you really found enjoyment in that experience. I will never get that.
My next point is something that I will continue to stand on business with, and that is basically releasing half a game and then patching the content in after, months and a year or whatever. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But if a game offers enough content and then continues to do that, then it's perfectly fine. But I'm not for the idea of releasing a broken game and fixing it over time. I don't think that we should ever have considered that as an option to sell that to consumers. But then again, a lot of consumers are stupid and they buy into that garbage. But genuinely speaking, a lot of people tend to use like Cyberpunk as an example. And yeah, while Cyberpunk is amazing, I don't think that any other game studio should ever follow in that footsteps. There's not really a whole lot to add to this, considering that when I think of any release of Call of Duty, I think that you're getting more than less, or probably less than half a game, and then the rest of the content gets added over time. And we get into like the more lazy stuff, like Modern Warfare 3 having Modern Warfare 2 maps, and that's so stupid, man. Just, why can't you have any new ideas? And I know this might kind of fall in line with the whole remakes and remaster stuff, but genuinely speaking, we need to move forward and introduce more new ideas instead of rehashing the past. Because yeah, I mean, at this point, if you want to have something that has old stuff, fucking update. Just release a game, whether it be, a free-to-play experience or, just like a best of classics with all of the old, with all the good stuff from the old games into one package instead of putting it into new stuff. I'm tired of that, and I'm tired of people accepting that. And it seems that Battlefield is probably going to fall into that route, and I don't think it's a good thing. I think they should continue to focus on new stuff instead of adding old stuff with the new. I know a lot of people tend to disagree with that, and genuinely speaking, when you play something and it's only been in one thing, to bring that back, yeah, that would be cool. To have like multiple remakes of the same map, no. We need to move forward. This is a small section, but yeah, I still stand for that. I do want to add a little bit more stuff. When it comes to gaming trends, I fucking hate the idea of making a bunch of different games within a specific genre. I know that that's been a thing for a while now, but genuinely speaking, like, there's not that... Just because, one game that's a quote-unquote Souls-like does well doesn't mean that we need to have 7 more that fall into that category. Because there is such thing as getting tired of playing the same genre. There's a reason why people are tired of battle royales, hero shooters, and now we're going to probably fall into Souls-like fatigue. If you ask me what I want, I think we should, once again, go back to arcade racing games. We need that. And the Call of Duty clones or Call of Duty-like shooters aren't a bad idea as long as we don't have that microtransaction bullshit. And when it comes to even just tactical stuff too, if someone wanted to make a game like a Rainbow Six Vegas, I would be all for it. I know we have Ready or Not, and Ready or Not is a different ballpark. It's a tactical shooter. But I also do kind of miss the Rainbow Six Vegas, like, terrorist hunt type of stuff where it's just about the killing all the terrorists on the map. It doesn't have to be all very, very specific with its, like, tactical gameplay, like Ready or Not. When you're a SWAT, I kind of just like I miss the old, big open map, kill 60 terrorists. I do miss that. And I think that maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to go back to that and get rid of the stupid generic shooter thing with like Call of Duty. If people are getting tired of Call of Duty, I think maybe we should move more towards like a Rainbow Six style shooter instead. But I also wouldn't be disappointed if we were to get something that was like better than X Defiance, that still had like a Call of Duty-esque like multiplayer shooter too. But genuinely speaking, I think a lot of people are tired of shooters in general, but I wouldn't turn down anything that's like similar to like Rainbow Six, for example. But not Siege. We don't need Siege. I'm talking about Rainbow Six Vegas. And I mean, like, even with like Ghost Recon now, like apparently the next Ghost Recon game is going to be first person, and that's also not something that I want. If we were to get like something kind of similar to Wildlands 2, I would have also accept that. And open world games too, man, like friggin' open world sandbox games like Just Cause. We need more of those, whether call them GTA clones, whatever. But yeah, we need to bring back those. We need to get out of the stupid Souls-like trends, and we need to start bringing back those types of games. But yeah.
There's a reason why I'm not interested in buying a PlayStation 5, and that's basically because the PlayStation 5 offers less than the Xbox, and Sony lied about the whole PlayStation Plus thing. Here I am waiting for Burnout 3 Takedown. Here I am waiting for the Revenge. Here I am waiting for Simpsons in Run. Here I am waiting for Time Splitters. Here I am waiting for whatever else the hell I wanted to play on PlayStation 2 that isn't on the storefront because Sony lied. They are only releasing PSP games, and even then, with PSP, Give me give me the flat out game on PSP. Give me the Burnout game on PSP. Give me Police Pursuit. Or no, Pursuit Force. Give me Pursuit Force. I want to play those games, Sony. Like, just release them on the store so I can, like. It's so dumb. If you want to play Toy Story 3, hey, you're playing Toy Story 3 on PSP. You're not playing it on PS3, which is the superior version. PS3 is one of my all-time favorite games from my childhood, and I cannot play it unless I have my PS3 in front of me. And the same thing goes for even Battlefront 2. Battlefront was gonna be released the PSP version, not the PS2. Like, Sony, why did you lie? Just come out and say, yeah, we lied. PS2 is not going to be really supported. But even then, PSP games, I can name a list of what you can give me, and I'll be satisfied. Even if I can't play Time Splitters or Simpsons Hit and Run. And it's bullshit that I have to pay over $175 for 12 months just so I can either play whatever's free on PS4 or whatever game I decide to stream through the cloud service.
Alright, this last bit, oh man, it got worse. Because I think PlayStation increased their prices like twice after this video was made. So how much was it? It was like 200 and I believe extra 12 months is like $280 and then premium is like $300. I originally, when I got my PS Plus, I originally checked out premium because, you know, it's a cool idea. And then I moved down to extra because that's just a ridiculous amount of money and I'm not getting what I paid for. And I'm at that point now where I have to start another plan and I'm like, oh, sorry, it was $180. $180 for extra and like 200 and something for premium. That's what it is. Which is absolutely insane considering the lackluster titles you do get with the premium experience. And this argument is still valid as while they did add the games, some of the games that I mentioned in this, there are still games that that were originally like, you know, teased and like a lot of people said that, you know, they're gonna probably be coming and they still haven't showed up with those PlayStation 2 titles. And as for the PSP games, it's still ridiculous the fact that you are basically getting lackluster versions of what you could be getting, whether that be, you know, Battlefront or the Toy Story 3. I find it absolutely irritating that Sony they don't care about people that pay for their shit. And it really pisses me off even more when the Sony fanboys defend this nonsense. When I will say that there are a lot of people that tend to over complain when games are free a month, like literally games that I would consider to be at least decent. They're like, oh, this is the worse than last month, and I'm like, you are fucking stupid. And even like there's those other people that tend to meme on them and be like, oh, well, go play your Fortnite and Call of Duty or FIFA. And I understand both sides, but I also completely empathize with people that spend $180 or $200 and whatever, and all they're getting is just garbage. Like, there are so many good games that they could just give out and people would be willing to spend the money on those subscriptions if they give those games. But they just refuse to, and they just don't listen to them. As I said before, and it was actually this specific reason why I even decided to even get into emulation in the first place. Because I was like, if they're not doing it, then I'm going to do it myself. And I really wasn't disappointed with Burnout 3. I could play Flat Out 2. They did add Time Splitters, and I was a sucker for buying that, but I still enjoy it. I had fun playing co-op with my friend, and we're hopefully going to beat both those games. Pursuit Force was excellent. The second one was mediocre, but the first game I had a lot of fun. It was definitely the Dark Souls of PSP games, and yeah. But then you like look at like the unfortunate PSP titles, where it's like, no, Battlefront 2 would go hard as if they add the PS2 version, and I got that for myself on my emulator. In Toy Story 3, the PS3 version is so damn good that I really wish people had the opportunity to play. And even just having this conversation in general just makes me want to like start another race kick video and just be like, oh, all these good games that I absolutely love, but there's all like we're losing them to time, and we only have one method of playing them, or two if you consider emulation. That it really is a frustrating, it's a really frustrating situation. And I'm glad that we have stuff like Stop Killing Games and all that. But it's really sad at the end of the day when if you actually do buy into this garbage, you spend so much money and you get dog shit in return. I highly support, if you are fed up with the PS5 and their subscription nonsense, just get a PC and start playing from there. But also don't depend on Steam. Depend more on like GOG. Yeah, GOG. As that's the better experience, and that's also the better platform that you own your games. Because Steam, you don't own your games. But I do also support them for having their indie titles come out too. There are some games that, there are indie games that if they do make free, like, I'd gladly hop on that train. But there's nothing at this moment in time that would make me want to buy those subscriptions outside of just the standard subscription to play online. If they made Ready or Not free, no. I think I'd rather buy Ready or Not. If they, there's no other game really that would make me make me move subscriptions. There's just not. It's better to just get an emulation at this point, and I stand by it. I did get a retro hard drive thing. Which was cool and all, but my better experiences were just emulators. Getting the PS2 emulator, GameCube/Wii emulator, and Dreamcast emulator. Reliving the nostalgia, or pretty much really creating a childhood that I never had, and it's excellent. It's far better, and it's easier to play on my damn $500 PC than it is to play on a even more expensive console that gives you fuck all in return. Closing statement is, I think I'm going to genuinely wait to see if there's any other changes within the gaming industry in the future to come up with anything that I guess either highlights new problems or really just talks about how far we've come from the travesty of pretty much 2023. But that being said, I'm glad that I did make this video back in 2023, and I'm glad that those points are still relevant to this day. It's an argument and a conversation that is still worth having outside of the nonsense that I also had in that video. I'm still glad that I'm glad that those points are still relevant today, but I'm also disappointed that they're still relevant today, because we need to grow up. At this point, there's tons of videos basically saying that the indie studios are kicking AAA's ass, and they really are. In that video, I did say I kept mentioning Trail Out, and Trail Out has yet to be released on PS5, but it should be coming soon at some point, as it was released on Xbox. Another game that I never mentioned in the video, but I also want it, but I also never knew it was going to be coming to console, was Hypercharge, and that's also an amazing game made by an indie studio. There's a lot of stuff to say about indie studios, but I think I'm going to save that for a separate video. And I really don't want to make it to I don't want to make it a video that I've already watched before from other YouTubers, as there's more. I have a lot to think about regarding videos within that specific category. Just video games in general, I have not. I've taken a break from them, and I haven't really felt the need to play them. But if there's gameplay in this video, I probably did go back to a game at some point, or worst case, I just use someone else's footage. But I think it's I'm probably going to use my own footage. But genuinely speaking, I don't know what to play. You know, I have The Precinct. The Precinct was a fantastic game. Took too long off of it. Sometimes I feel like I want to play Fortnite. Sometimes I feel like I want to play Battlefield. I've been thinking about getting Battlefield 4 because of just the announcement of Battlefield 6. And hot take, but I'm not really interested in Battlefield 6. And there's some other things that I want to say about Battlefield 6, but I don't think I will unless the game does bad. If the game does good, I'm not going to say anything. But if the game does bad, I will come out with a video on it. As I do have a lot of unpopular opinions about Battlefield 6. However, I will say that they are doing the right thing by not caving into the skin battle pass obsessed crowd that they did with Call of Duty. And genuinely speaking, I don't care how many people want to mock the last Battlefield game. I do think that the last Battlefield game was pretty good. It wasn't the best Battlefield game. Battlefield 4, in my opinion, is still the best Battlefield game, and I really enjoyed Hardline. But I don't know. I know there's not a lot of people that defend Hardline. And I did play Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 3 was pretty cool. But Battlefield 4, you know, it lives rent-free in my head. It lives in my past history as one of my favorite shooters that I've ever played, because it really delivered a multiplayer experience that no other game had delivered. But yeah, future content. There might be some, there might not be. I have plans for an update video, and that will talk about why. But yeah, after releasing that EP, I have fell in love with art more again, and less. I don't want to focus on music. And when it came to content, I wanted to get this content out so I could just go back to focusing on art. But yeah, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Peace.